Welcome to Life of Lady Di. Subscribe, like, and share. And don't forget to turn on that notification for more wonderful, encouraging content. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are making a saucy shrimp and scallop seafood stew. So first we are going to start with some head-on, shell-on shrimp. I've already cleaned these, but I reserved a couple so that way I can show you how to properly clean and devein your shrimp. So you're going to start with your shrimp. I've had these shrimp sitting in a little bit of cold water with a little ice in it and a few tablespoons of lemon juice. So that's how I usually wash my shrimp first. And so you're going to make a slit going down the back of the shrimp, and I usually go about halfway. And then what you're going to look for is, they usually call it like the poop line, but there it is right there, if you could see it, that little dark grayish vein looking thing. So you're going to just grab that and pull it straight out. I usually pull it towards the head versus pulling it up towards me, because if you pull it upward, it'll break off, and you really want to get the entire poop line. And so that is how you clean and devein your shrimp. Now, some people, they have no problem leaving that vein in there. I suggest you clean it. If you're going to cook the right way. And plus, you're cooking this food for yourself and for people that you care about. So let's not skip any steps. Now, this particular one, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to find the vein. And so sometimes it's just really, really light, right? So I'm going to show you. It's like you almost can't see it, but when you start pulling it out, you'll see there it is. Look at all that. Yeah, you definitely want to get all of that out, okay? And it's not a difficult thing to do. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But if you don't know how to do it, then just go ahead and purchase shrimp that's already deveined. And if you're not a fan of head-on shrimp, that's okay too. You're going to rinse those off. And so now we're going to season our shrimp. You're going to add a few tablespoons of lime juice or lemon juice, whichever you prefer. We're also going to use some adobo seasoning. Now, this particular seasoning blend that I'm showing you, any kind of seafood boil you want to make or stew, when I tell you this is like the perfect mix of seasonings. Saison, of course, because I'm an island girl. Because again, if you're not cooking with Saison, what are you doing? And if you know me, minced onion, okay? Minced onion, garlic, tons of it. And I like the dry version for this when I'm seasoning it, because of the textures. And then of course, tons of garlic powder. Load that, put garlic powder on your meat, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. It's gonna taste amazing. And then let's add also some dried parsley flakes. I cook a lot in my house, and so you'll see me using the larger packages of seasoning. 1 heaping tablespoon. This is probably 2 tablespoons of chopped garlic. And then this other part is optional. Sriracha. Now, it's not going to make it super spicy at all. So if you have a spice tolerance, then you can put this much sriracha. That's about a tablespoon. But if you are someone who cannot tolerate any kind of spice whatsoever, again, as I've always said, just don't add it. And some fresh peppercorn. We're going to crack that in there. Now, as I'm like turning this peppercorn mill, I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to get me one of those fancy electric battery powered rechargeable pepper grinders, because your girl was struggling. I was like, you know, I'm getting weaker, or this pepper grinder is just really difficult to use. Either way, that needs to go in my shopping cart. Some dried thyme leaf. I love building flavors. And then also tons and tons and tons of ground ginger. You're gonna add a lot of ground ginger. I mean a lot, like about, I wanna say 2 good tablespoons of ground ginger. If you have fresh ginger, even better. And if you do, you're gonna reserve that for when you're not gonna put it in with your shrimp that you're seasoning right now, but you would basically slice those up and then kind of macerate them just lightly. And then you're gonna add it to your hot oil when we add our onions and our other things to the hot oil later on. So you're gonna mix that up very well. Make sure to get all of that seasoning in there. And you may be wondering, well, Diane, why did you leave the shell, the tail, and the head and all that stuff? Why'd you leave the shrimp the way it is? Because if you know, you know. I am making a seafood stew. The shells, the head is gonna bring in so much delicious flavor. And majority of people around the world, I'll tell you, when we're cooking like shrimp, especially in like a stew, you want to have that head because then you can suck all of that delicious broth and yummy umami flavor out of that head. It's like the best part. So now we're going to cut some onions. I love using Vidalia onions. And so right now we're just going to slice up some scallions. No like specific way of slicing it up at all. I'm just going to slice it on a bias, but to be quite honest, even if you didn't, in the cooking process, you're not going to be able to tell the shape of it. So I don't want you stressing about like, oh my God, I can't get these perfect. And it doesn't matter at all. It's not going to affect the way your food tastes. No one's going to notice. The only thing people are going to notice is that, whoa, since when did you know how to cook? Okay, chef. Okay, chef, I see you. That's all they're going to notice. They're like, you know about Saison? If your food is gonna be tasty, slap your mama finger licking, delicious. No one cares about how you slice your green onions, okay? Don't stress about it, seriously. This is home cooking, made easy, simple, just for everybody. So that way you can just have different types of cooking techniques that you have in your back pocket, different types of seasonings and sauces that you can pretty much throw any kind of meat or vegetable into. Okay, so we're gonna slice our Vidalia onions. I prefer the Vidalia onions, like I said before, because they're sweeter and they don't have like a strong oniony smell or taste to it. But if you prefer that kind of onion, the regular yellow onion or red onion, just use that. It's not like you're going to alter the flavor of the dish that much that, it would be so noticeable. So we're slicing our onions. Again, be mindful, watch your fingers, and then we're gonna just put those to the side. I also have some beautiful multicolored cherry tomatoes. We're going to just slice all of those in half, and then we're gonna reserve that for when we're adding all of our ingredients to the pot. So just slice all of that in half. Very simple, no big deal. So the great thing about this seasoning blend and this particular recipe, you can use any seafood. When I tell you can use any seafood for this recipe, I mean that. The only thing you really need to know is your cooking times when it comes to seafood. For example, with this particular recipe, I'm making shrimp with the shell and the head on, right? And I'm also making scallops. I can't put the shrimp and scallops to cook at the same time because scallops have a faster cooking time. And you don't ever want to have a rubbery scallop. Same thing if let's say we had lobster and shrimp. I'm not going to put in my shrimp and lobster together at the exact same time. I would put my lobster in first, get that going. Then as my lobster starts to change color and start to turn red, I toss in my shrimp. And as my shrimp is changing color and they get to where they need to get to, finally I toss in my scallops, right? And so that's pretty much the only thing you really need to understand. To a hot pan, we add your oil of choice. I use peanut oil. We're going to add our onions and our sliced scallions, and we're going to mix that up pretty good. I love teaching you guys these different recipes. And also for me, it's like having a time capsule for my children, right? One day when I'm long gone, they'll be able to be like, oh, I just want to hear my mom's voice. I want to see her. Or I remember my mom used to make this particular dish. I know she made a video about it on YouTube. And so for generations and for all kinds of people, ages, whatever, the great thing about doing this and having my YouTube channel is that I can share all of these recipes, these ideas with all of you. And I appreciate every single one of you for coming on and watching my videos and watching my content, leaving a like, sharing, subscribing, commenting. I appreciate all of it. And it just makes me so happy to know that I am affecting a positive change in someone's life. Because to be able to cook for yourself, to be able to take a few ingredients and provide a delicious meal for your loved ones or your family, it's really a blessing. So now we're going to add our seasoned shrimp. Now, I'm not dumping the whole thing in there as far as like dumping all of the seasoning, liquid, and all that, the marinade into my pot. I'm just using a spoon, or you can use tongs, your hands, whatever, and I'm just only adding the shrimp with all the seasonings in it. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to mix that up really well with our onions and our scallions. As you can see, we did not cook our onions and our scallions to where they were translucent at all, because it's going to continue to cook in the pot, and I didn't want it to get mushy. This part goes pretty quickly, and so what I've done in this particular video, this is actual cooking time. I didn't speed the cooking time up because I really wanted you guys to see how long it should take you to cook the shrimp. So right now, I'm just kind of letting it sit in the pot. And the reason why I'm doing that without mixing it is because I really want to develop a layer of flavor, right? So I'm just adding the garlic and some of the seasoning from the bowl that the shrimp was in. You see all that steam coming from the pot, so it makes it a little bit hard to see what's going on. And you're gonna mix that well. I have my pot on high, and so you're gonna mix that, and then you're gonna kind of let it sit, okay? Because I want to make sure that I can get all those delicious caramelized flavors at the bottom of my pan for when I do add the liquid of choice. And now we're just gonna let that sit for a little bit, for like a couple minutes, not too long. Depending upon the type of stove you have, I have electrical here in Florida. I really miss having a gas stove. I miss it. Being up north, when you learn to cook with gas, it's just a completely different cooking experience. But here where I live, they only allow electric stoves, and so it's an electric. And so sometimes the thing I find with electric is that the balance of heat, it may not be consistent sometimes because it's electric, right? Whereas with gas, the temperature and the balance of heat remains consistent the entire time. And so this is, again, real-time cooking. Okay, as you can see, the sauce is starting to boil. And when you're cooking, pay attention to the smells. You will notice that you're going to see how the seasonings and the sauces, your marinade, your food is going to start to change in this way it smells. It becomes a little bit more complex. So when it's starting to brown at the bottom of your pan, you will smell like that kind of like, I want to say it's like a caramelized flavor scent. It's not burnt, but you can tell if you leave it, it's going to burn, right? And so that's what you want to pay attention to. And so that's what I'm doing, is allowing it to caramelize at the bottom of the pan. And now that I notice that, okay, now is perfect timing for me to mix this up. And what I'm doing is scraping the bottom of this pan. And as you're scraping, you're getting all those delicious bits of flavor that caramelize at the bottom of the pan mixed in with the food. And then when you're scraping it, it also prevents it from burning as well. So you're gonna mix that up really, really well. So in the comments, let me know, what are some of your favorite seafood items to have? You know, in my other video, I did a delicious, absolutely wonderful, super tasty oyster Rockefeller. But if I didn't want to do an oyster Rockefeller, guess what? I can use those same oysters with this recipe. I could have tossed them in there and it would taste amazing. And so that's the thing about cooking, just having different ways, right? Some people feel like, oh, cooking is like overly complicated, or you feel like it's very intimidating. Don't feel intimidated by it. Once you know how to make a few different types of sauces or bases of sauce, or let's say you just know how to season your meat one particular way, right? This particular way, the way I just showed you. These seasonings you can use across the board for any meat. You don't have to just use it for seafood. You can use it for fish. You can use it for steak. You can use it for some kind of chicken or fowl, or like the possibilities are endless. And if you're someone who's a vegetarian or vegan, you can use these seasonings on your like tofu or your meatless items. So I just added the cherry tomatoes in there, and we're going to mix that up really well. Again, this is real time cooking. So that's how fast cooking is going. That's why you want to have everything prepared ahead of time. And now that I've added my cherry tomatoes, again, I'm mixing it really well. And as I'm mixing, I'm scraping the bottom of the pan, and I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit. As you can see, the shrimp are starting to change in color, but not fully. So we want to continue to let it cook. You do not want to overcook your shrimp or any seafood. No one wants rubbery, chewy food. So what I just did was add some heavy cream, about a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. You could also add coconut milk if, let's say, you're lactose intolerant. Coconut milk with this dish is absolutely delicious. And that's what I would normally add, but when I went into the pantry while I was letting this caramelize in the pan, the seafood, I realized I was completely out of coconut milk. Open the fridge, I have heavy cream. Perfect. And now we're going to cover it, and here are my scallops. And what I did was just add it to the bowl that had the shrimp in it. Scallops are super easy. You rinse them off, you toss them in there. And so now I'm gonna just check on the shrimp, see how that's doing. It smells absolutely delicious. And I'm just taking a taste of it because I want to see where we're at as far as the flavors are concerned. It tastes great. I don't need to add anything else to it. So again, just mixing everything up really well. Making sure to scrape the bottom. At this point, I've turned my heat down to medium. And as you can see, the sauce has really developed. Look at how delicious the seafood is looking. And the shrimp is basically cooked. I would say they just need a few more minutes, which is just enough time to get my scallops in. Because the scallops, again, they don't take long at all. So we're tossing in the scallops. We're going to mix that up really well. Guys, when I tell you, you're gonna love this dish. And if you've never had seafood where you like suck the juice out of the head of the shrimp, you're missing out. I'm telling you, it's like one of the best things ever. And it's just so fun. Cover it up, leave it for another 3 to 5 minutes. When it's coming to a rapid boil like this, that means we are basically done. We're gonna give this a final mix. Everything is done. It's perfect. All the shrimp are cooked. They're not overcooked at all. all the juices and the seasonings and the flavors have really gone into every part of the shrimp. The scallops have cooked perfectly as well. And so now let's plate our delicious, wonderful. It didn't take tons of time at all. This is something you can literally make in 30 minutes and then have it with some really good crusty French bread if you want, or make a pot of white rice. You can check my other videos on how to make rice. You can also boil some pasta and put it over pasta, or you can just make a nice grilled vegetable and have it with vegetables. I mean, really, you can have it with anything. It's just going to be absolutely delicious. The only thing I want you to do is make this dish. That's it. Look at how beautiful this dish looks. The shrimp are perfect. The scallops, they're juicy. They're not rubbery at all. The shrimp are just so succulent and tender. The sauce, it is giving everything you've ever needed when it comes to a seafood dish that you can make at home with some very basic, simple ingredients. All right, guys, this is the close-up you've been waiting for. This is something you're gonna eat with your hands, okay? This is why you wanna make it at home. You're gonna take your nice, crusty, toasted bread. You're gonna dip it into this broth, and you are going to tear this meal up. Please like, share, okay? Follow, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what do you think about this wonderful dish? Until next time. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you again soon.